You don't. Before me.
Oh, jeez.
There you go. You're good.
Yeah. So welcome to week 3 of our summit, listing presentations you're prepared for. We're going to go in depth with how I used to work with listings, how I would do the presentation and structure them. And I'm going to share with you a binder that I used to use, which was my, for last week I showed you my working with a realtor binder. This is my seller binder that I prepared for myself. And also, as we all know, we have these free ones from our design centers, whether you're here in Mississauga, downtown, or in Don Mills. They're free of charge. As long as you have a name and address, you can get them printed out. So as a starting point, if you have nothing, this is a wonderful resource. And then invest the time to prepare a secondary book. And I'll, if you guys want to have a look at it here in the audience, I'll let you guys see it. It's very detailed, lots of statistics, data, bios on myself and whatnot. So more information and content you bring to educate the consumer, the listing prospect, the better it is for you. I'm also going to share with you near the end of the presentation how I structured my fee service model system. So I did not go into every listing presentation having to reinvent the wheel with listings. So I'll share with you how I structured that. This is your business, as I've always said. If you choose to incorporate, adopt anything that I've put together, by all means do it. If not, if it doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to fit your business model, then of course, no need to do anything with it. But I'm giving you some ideas, some potential opportunities to change the way you're structuring and doing your business. So with further ado, any questions on the at homes? No? Okay, we'll get into the first one.
No.
So, sorry?
1 second.
Yeah.
Anirudh is, Anirudh, you're saying no audio, but I did a quick check this morning, and Mike, can you just say something real quick?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
So Anirudh, I'm on my phone as well, and I'm getting sound in okay. My only suggestion is to check your sound settings and make sure you've got audio coming through on your end. I'm sorry, but
is anybody else at home having the problem?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So on the bottom left, they have audio settings, right? On the
well, bottom left has your mic and video, but the bottom right of your screen will be your sound icon.
Okay.
So check that, Anirudh. I think it's on your end. So just
okay.
So continue. Yeah.
Perfect. So as you know, I like to present you with some surveys and studies that have been conducted in the field to help position your thought process on how you should adopt the various topics we're talking about. So today being working with listings, I sourced this study out of National Association of Realtors, and what they did was they took a big sample of sellers that listed their properties with realtors, and this is the feedback that happened as the end of the results. So 66% of sellers that were contacted only worked with the first realtor that they met with, right? So meaning that if there's 100 listing opportunities, 66% of those listing opportunities are signed up on by the first realtor that gets in the door, right? So it helps kind of also prepare your mindset. Do you want to be the first realtor in, the second or third, if you're aware of other realtors being on the prowl looking for the business? I personally, my view was to always be the first one. I didn't have the opinion that, come in second or third and judge me after you've judged others kind of thing, which is fine. There's people that do that, very top agents. But my fear was always that if another top agent went in there before me, that they would be able to secure the listing because the statistics bear out 2/3 of them are going to list with the first realtor, right? So I didn't want to risk that option. And I used to have a great dialogue too, that when I would get in first and get the listing, and the seller would be uncomfortable signing the listing because they had booked 2 other realtors to come in or 3 other realtors, and they felt obligated, obliged to go and fulfill those appointments. And oftentimes I would just put at ease the seller and say, listen, I understand the pressure you're under. You've made a commitment. I'm like you, I hate to go back on my commitments, but this happens all the time in our real estate business. So let me take that burden away from you. Who are those realtors you're slated to meet with? And what I'll do is I'll reach out to them as the realtor and I'll just let them know that you've selected to work with me. So I'll take that responsibility away from you. And people, believe it or not, appreciated that, love that, because nobody likes to be the deliverer of bad news, right? And so 90+% of the times where I would get the listing, I would make those calls and not be obviously derogatory in those calls, because it happens to me, happens to everyone. We lose the listing, right? We don't get every listing that we go in on. And so, letting that other realtor down kind of comfortably, professionally is the way to approach it. 19% will interview 2 realtors and 15% will interview 3 or more realtors. 63% of sellers definitely would use their realtor again or recommend them to others in this survey. There's other surveys that are much higher, some are lower, but in this particular survey, that's what it was. The source was National Association of Realtors. Any comments on that or questions? Has everybody ever thought of what position they'd like to be in the chain of realtors going in first, right? This bears it out, right? That statistically, if you're going to the casino, your odds are in your favor if you're definitely the first person. But the key is, if you're going to be the first person, you've got to have such a bona fide listing presentation to convince and influence the seller to work with you, right? You have to come in so prepared and so confident in what you're going to deliver. The seller does not want to look at another realtor, right? So I've always find, and there's one of my favorite quotes I've got in this course, this class here in particular, by Miguel de Cervantes, and it's he who is prepared has the battle half fought. It's from a book from the 1600s, Don Quixote, which is the second largest selling book of all time in the history of books. And I always thought of that the more prepared you are to go in, the more likely you're going to have a positive outcome. And I find that a lot of failures in our business is not being prepared properly, right? So that's the first slide. The second one is your initial point of contact. So this is going to be on your page 39. All the red documents or lettering will be what's below the motivation, why, when, where in your workbook if you want to write them down. So what's a key walking in the front door with the listing sellers is to put them at ease, to build rapport, to smile, be friendly, and try, if you can, to give a genuine compliment about themselves, the house, the first impression when you pulled up. Maybe they have beautiful gardens, maybe they have great interlocking driveway, whatever it is. If there's something that you picked up on that is something that is impressive, pay them a compliment of that. So you're starting the relationship on a positive. And these are examples of seller questionnaires that, and there's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of them that you can learn. But these are just some samples of them, and they're kind of like the format of W5, right? The 5 W questions, which are who, what, where, when, why. And there's the bonus one, which is the H one, the how. Right? So if you could think of the W5 model again, who, what, where, why, and when as questions, then you're going to be able to get to the root of the problem or issue or challenge that the seller has. They're all what we call, these types of questions are what we call discovery questions. So you want to write that down. They're discovery questions. And there are also questions that we call, this is a made up word, but we're gonna share it with you. They're WOPEN questions. Everybody heard of the term WOPEN? You're nodding your head. You know what that is? No, he doesn't know. He's like, yeah, no, he doesn't.
I'm trying to judge actually.
Sorry?
I'm trying to judge.
Okay, so it's a hybrid of 2 words. The W is the first word, which is wide. Wide. Like wide, right?
Oh.
Wide open. Wide open questions are questions that do not have the yes or no answer to it. Right?
Open-ended questions.
Right?
Open-ended questions.
Correct. These are wide open questions. So the W5, if I was to ask, Matt, a question, why are you selling the house that you've lived in for the last 15 years, Matt?
We're downsizing.
So he's downsizing. So he gave me a short answer, but he couldn't answer me yes or no. Because you typically do not want yes, no answers. Because yes, no answers, whether you're working with a buyer or with a seller, end in a dead end. Right? There's no more further to go, right? So Matt there gave me a short answer to the why. What do you think of realtors, Matt? Have you had any experience with realtors in the past?
Not many, no.
Not many? But so those experiences that you have had, the ones that are not many, what was that like?
Just friends of friends, brief introductions, nothing that ever went anywhere.
Okay. Now I'll follow up with a yes, no. So were those experiences good experiences or were they bad experiences?
Good for the most part.
Okay. So I did two questions there. One was, were they good experiences, bad? I was hoping he was going to say yes, they were good, or no, they were bad. He did. He went into an open conversation, which is good. You want the open conversation. So, where would you think of moving? You're downsizing. Have you thought of where you're looking to go, Matt?
A condo somewhere in the city.
Awesome. So all we're doing is having a dialogue. We're having a natural conversation and trying to extract from Matt, that's a rhyme, extract from Matt the details of his needs and wants. Does that all make sense? And you can't do that when you get yes, no answers. They're dead end questions. So you have to get in your arsenal of questions that you're going to prepare, those wide open discovery style questions that have a conversation. Because as Matt and me are having this conversation, now Matt's known me for 10 years, 9 years, right? So we have a relationship already, but you can imagine if we've just met each other, I was referred to Matt, we're having this kind of dialoguing conversation. It may be awkward for the first couple to get through, but we're going to start to build some rapport, some synergy, and he's going to lower his guards, right? He's going to lower those force fields. Star Trek guy you are, right? So his shields around his ship are coming down, and now I'm able to get to what his real needs and wants are. Because initially he may be just deflecting me and playing a game, and he's meeting with me because his buddy at work really recommended me, but he really doesn't know. So this is helpful for me to build that rapport. These are some of the questions you can go, but follow the W5 open discovery, not the yes and no. So hopefully everybody's written those types of things down in your workbook. Any questions on that? And just a dialogue that I practiced with Matt, do that with your colleagues or peers in your office, friends, family, whatever. Do some role playing. And if you're nervous about doing that, some of us are, then set up your camera phone, right? And film yourself talking to your phone as if you're talking to another person. And why do I suggest you do that? Well, it's going to give you immediate feedback of how you are presenting, how are you conveying. Now, if you don't like what you look like, guess what? That's what you look like. If you don't like what you sound like, guess what? That's what you sound like. It took me a while to get over all of those kind of fears when I started doing presentations on film years and years ago. You just get over it and move on, because no matter how much I dislike how I look on camera, it's the way I am, right? So it's the way you guys are. Just be natural about it. So no question, we'll go to the next one. This is a seller questionnaire. This is page 40 for you. It should be on page 40.
And 41.
And 41, thank you. So again, here's another arsenal of a whole bunch of questions. You can actually verbatim just copy these 2 pages and have this at your phone ready to be able to ask questions if you have not gotten to the level yet of your W5 discovery of open style questions. So these are great questions. These have been cataloged over the years from courses I've taken and from experience I've had on the street and from other coaches that I've grabbed in the field. So it's fantastic kind of discovery style questions. And if you look at this one here, this is your kind of demographic style questions. What's their name, the house, do they have pets, children, profession? That's your demographic stuff about who you're talking about, okay? There's 2 pages, yeah. So the third one here. So we should be on, what page are we on?
42.
42, thank you. Here's what we call a bona fide appointment. Has everybody ever heard the term bona fide? I might have said it last week, I'm not sure. A bona fide appointment in our business is a legitimate appointment. That's the word. If you don't know that one, it's legitimate. meaning there's an opportunity for an outcome of doing business at that appointment. So it's not a social appointment. Those are your Popeyes. And I'm not saying don't do those, do lots of the Popeyes, do the social stuff, because that's building the rapport to eventually when they do want to have a bona fide, I need to sell my house appointment, okay? It's legitimate. I'm going there with my mind that 2/3 of all sellers are going to pick the first realtor. I'm going in with my paperwork, my presentation prepared. I'm going to knock it out of the park and I'm going to get the signed listing, okay? So first thing you need to establish about a bona fide appointment, would all the decision makers be present? And so this one here comes with a caveat. So I'll throw the question out. What's a decision maker in a sales listing situation for a seller? Who could be this? Who could be the decision makers?
A husband and wife, spouse.
So if it's a husband and wife scenario, sure. So, you know, or any other makeup of a family today, right? I mean, so whatever that looks like. And so that would be who's on title type of thing, right? Your either your traditional setup or non-traditional setup. That's what you're looking for, because those are signing authorities that you know of right now because you've searched Geo Warehouse or you've searched Impact. But there could be also hidden, use the word hidden, decision makers. I'll just do DMs. Could be hidden decision makers. Who could be a hidden decision maker?
Spouse,
Parents.
Pardon me?
spouses or parents.
Well, that's that already. We know that, right?
One who is not on the title, but
Okay, so common law or matrimonial. Sorry, guys, that's supposed to be matrimonial. So if they're in a common law situation, they are a decision maker. They may not be, however, a legal decision maker that's required to sign a contract. Okay, so that's very clear. That's very unclear to a lot of people. If you're ever not sure yourself, reach out to one of the managers on the team and they can help you walk through that. Because there's cases where common law spouses have absolutely no legal influence on a document. They have call it emotional influence, which probably is a lot more powerful than the legal one, right? But they may not have one. And if you have them sign a listing agreement and they didn't have one, you're giving them rights and powers that they don't have, which could cause problems and grief for you as a realtor. Matrimonial home. This is where, you know, your relationship has escalated to a marriage or there's a child involved type of thing. And so the matrimonial home, if the spouse is not on title, it's required to have their acceptance, right? Spousal acceptance. You've seen those words probably on the document. So yeah, there's some decision makers. Who are some other decision makers? Hidden ones. Parents, exactly. Parents. Maybe mom and dad fronted the deposits for the original purchase. And so mom and dad are now wanting their deposits back. Who knows? Like, are there any underlying agreements in place that the seller had with mom and dad? Makes sense. Hidden ones. What's another hidden one? Children. Thank you. Smart class today. Children. Well, what if little Johnny and Sally don't want to leave because they love the school that they're in, they love the hockey team that they belong to, and the gymnastics group that they go and do gymnastics with? Do you think children could stop a mom and dad from selling?
yes,
Oh, yeah, many times. And so as a realtor, I always made sure that I was on board and on side with the kids. They were just as important to me as mom and dad were when I went into the house, right? So those are just some things to provide clarity and focus to you that there's more than just typically the people you see on the Geo Warehouse or Impact. And so when you're asking that, that's a question you want to ask when you're booking your appointments, right? Because remember, lead generation, book appointment, close contract. There's three big things. Would all the decision makers be present, Matt? And what I'm talking about, it's not just you and your wife that are on title, But anybody else, maybe your parents are involved or your children, would they all be there present just so that we have those decision makers on site?
Yeah, they will be.
It would, okay. And if the answer is no, oh, great, would we be able to maybe have them on a conference call? Could we patch them in on Zoom? Could we have them available so that we can include them in the conversation? Because you're never going to sign them as the first agent unless they're there, right? Because if it's kids with parents involved, you're not getting a contract signed. So hopefully that makes sense. What if we were able to agree on all your concerns to satisfy all your needs? Would you okay the paperwork to allow us to market your home for sale? That's a question you want to ask before you even show up, right? If you haven't asked it before, then that's one of the first questions you want to ask when you arrive. Hey, listen, Matt, I'm here to get to know you, get to know your house. If I was able to answer all your questions, satisfy all your needs and concerns, would you be in a position to list your house tonight with me? It's a yes, no answer.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe. I like that. Maybe's good. What would maybe cause you to say yes?
Everything going perfectly.
What does that look like for you? See, he wants me to stop a conversation. I'm not going to let him stop because I always have more questions I keep going. Right? And most people will have one, maybe two objections to throw at you. And then they're like, hey, he's out of gas now. He's like, geez, I don't know.
I guess yes.
Right. He's gonna just give up.
I'm out of things to say.
And the problem is most of us as realtors, we only have the one. And then we stop. We're out of gas. And then they won. So if you think of this is a competition, right? And I'm an athlete. I'm in competition with Matt. And what's my competition? Is who's going to outsell each other? Is Matt going to outsell me and say no? Or am I going to outsell him and get him to say yes? That's what you got. That's a mindset you have to go into, okay? Each and every time. But if you don't have a repertoire and arsenal of questions to keep coming back at him, then he's going to win. Then you're going to wonder why. Somebody else swoops in, picks up the listing. You're going to go, oh, he must have cut his commission. No, he was able to engage, build a rapport, uncover the needs and wants, and get a signature on that listing agreement, right? Okay. This is a pre-listing question as well. Gather and have ready all the documents in your possession. What are some important questions you can talk about over the phone about documents that you should be asking the seller? That's fine. Sure. Deed. Yeah. I have no idea where mine is actually. Now that you say that, I'd have to go looking for that.
Status certificate for condos?
No, not likely. You're not going to want. So here's the stat. So Matt said status certificate. Status certificates are. Well, here's the question for you. How long are status certificates valid?
1 month.
So we have it. We have one answer is it's 1 month.
It may be valid for more, but the lawyers will consider only the month.
So it may be valid for more, but lawyers would what? Sorry?
Would consider only 1 month old.
So the answer is 1 month. Lawyers may consider more, but it's really only 1 month. Anybody else have an opinion on how long is a status report valid for?
Until the next update comes out.
Until next update. Next update. Okay. So that could be more than 1 month. If the update was yesterday and I'm doing one today, I could be 2 months, right? Okay. Any other questions or comments, answers? Okay. A status certificate is only valid for the day that it's printed.
Oh, I was going to say that, but I thought.
Yeah. That was a trick question.
Yeah.
It's only valid for the day that it's ordered and printed. Because something tomorrow could happen, right? So in a status certificate, this is for condos, of course, right? I'll give you a classic example. You have underground parking in a condominium, okay? The homeowner has a status report delivered or produced yesterday, okay? So it's good from yesterday. And today, for some ungodly reason, Matt decides to go do an oil change in his parking spot in underground parking, and he creates an oil slick in his parking space. Well, when they go back to do a final review before closing, because that's what the property management will do, they'll notice a big oil slick there, right? And so now that status report that was that day didn't capture that. So it was only good that day. Make sense? Okay. Gather documents. So let's go back to this one. But so status is a good one. Went off on a tangent, gave you a little aha moment that's only good for one day. Here's the documents that I'd really like you to be thinking about. Survey documents. Do we have one? If we do, fantastic, right? That would be great. If not, there are online resources now available for most subdivision style homes in Ontario where you can get the survey at a cost. I'm not sure entirely what the fee is, but it's a whole lot better than the probably $3,000 that it's going to cost you for a standard sized lot in a subdivision is probably what you're looking at now for a survey. Okay. So does the seller have a survey? And if they do, and they have a pool, does their survey capture the pool on the survey? Why? Because we want to make sure if this is the lot line and there's your house and here's our pool, that our pool actually isn't on the other side of somebody's property. Has it been built in with the proper setbacks? And if that's the case, do we have the right building permits to have that done, right? So we know there's a pool there. Can you provide to us any of the documentation you have for the permits that were issued for that, right? So that's gathering documents. But here's one I want to burn into everyone's mind, the one that gets lost all the time and causes no grief to all realtors involved, is any of the lease ones that you are seeing now. So a furnace, you got the AC, you got the solar, yeah, security, and you got hot water tank. Folks, this is the biggest nightmare right now out there with leased items. So these are the guys that go around, knock on your door and say, hey, I've got this great brand new furnace and you don't have to pay the cost of the furnace, you know, whatever, 5, 6, 7,000. What you can do is you can we'll put it on a lease program. And for the next 15 years or 20 years, you pay XYZ per month. And in 15 years, the lease will be paid out. Of course, when you look at the number, you're paying a heck of a lot more than the actual cost of it. They're preying on people that don't have the money and the resources to put that out there, so they take that option. The problem is with these types of systems and these companies, what they do is they put on your title a caution. It's registered. Something is registered on your title. What does that mean? Well, you cannot transfer title when there's a cloud on title, right? If you look at our agreements on purchase and sales, there's on the first page, title search date, right? And we typically back that out 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before closing. What's the purpose of that? Primarily to find out, do we have anything registered? And they call it an encumbrance on title. Because if there is, we cannot transfer title. These are the big encumbrances now that are on title. Now imagine I've negotiated, I'm a buyer's agent, Matt's the listing agent. I've negotiated a sale and Matt failed to disclose that there was one of these types of things registered against title because he was neglectful in his due diligence. And now 2 weeks before closing, my buyer's lawyer uncovers this. Now we got 2 weeks to figure that out. So I had one yesterday, exactly like this with the furnace. And that was I'll round it up, $9,300 was the buyout on the furnace. More than the actual cost of the furnace new. Because it still had like 13 years left or something on the lease. So guess who ends up having to pay that? Is my buyer paying for that? Or are you paying for it maybe out of your own pocket, Matt? Or you're going to insist that your seller pay for it?
I have to.
You want the property to close and not get sued?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to try and figure out a solution. I'm scaring him. We're we now though are put in an untenable situation as a listing side where we got this buyout of $9,300. I had one about 4 years ago, a solar panel array that was $89,000. That was what was due on a solar array panel, the ones up on the roof, right? Seller ends up having to buy those out because here's the other element. Most of these contracts are non-transferable to a new buyer. That's that, right? So they're mandated to be bought out by the seller. There's a few that, yes, the buyer can assume these contracts, but the vast majority now are structured in a way that that company wants to be paid out right off of that. So now, Matt, in this case here, the one we had yesterday, the selling, we're on the buying side of this one. The seller is now having to have the proceeds of his sale to buy out that encumbrance that's been registered. So gather all the documents. And so when you're asking that question, you're going to ask, hey, is it by off chance, have you entered into any lease agreements for a furnace, for a solar panel, for air conditioning, for a hot water tank? What was the other one? For security. Has there anybody that you've installed one of those platforms in where you're paying a monthly fee? Now, if he lies to me, he's lied to me, right? But I'm going to document that and make sure that I've got that in my records that I've asked those questions, right? And if he comes back to, oh yeah, I just put a furnace in 3 years ago. Perfect. I'll need to see the contract and the paperwork, because if there's an option to assume, that's good. If there's not, that's not good per se, because Matt's going to have to buy that out. Because good luck trying to get the buyer and the buyer's realtor coming along to pay for your stupidity, quite frankly, Matt, for buying a $15,000 furnace that's only worth $9,000
Across 15 years.
Any questions on that? Hopefully that's shared and shed some light as well on practical kind of street knowledge that you need to do to go in to get your bona fide listing
In
agreement.
today's market, what I'm observing, because this happened with me as well, when we bought a house last year in December.
Mhm.
At the last moment, during the negotiations were already done,
Yeah.
the seller informed us that the ACN furnace is on rent.
Yes.
And at that point, we wanted to buy that house badly because we have been searching for 2 months.
Yes.
And then we couldn't say anything but to accept. But that was a mistake, I think, on the part of the seller's agent, and our agent as well, who could not negotiate properly.
Yeah.
For that thing, and I had to assume that, and now I'm paying for that.
So what you're going to want to do on the buying side, just as a precaution when you're preparing your offer, you may want to put a statement in that says seller warrants and represents they're not a party to any lease agreements for furnace, hot water tank, solar, security, air conditioning. Just put it as a statement right in your offer, so that when it goes in, if it gets accepted, well, then you're not liable on your buyer's side. You're not going to be put into one of those situations. If they cross it out, now they've revealed that they've got this hidden thing right off the bat for you.
But what happened, sir, is that it was a multiple offer situation. He took advantage of that situation, that
Sure.
now if you want to negotiate, then it's okay, otherwise we have other buyers as well.
So
So then,
he was using unfair leverage to try and do that. But putting it, so it's a statement you would put into the agreement. It's not a condition. It's a statement. If they remove that, then you know that they've got something. But the reality is they should be disclosing that information to you. Your buyer is regulated by a RICO term, and the RICO term is this. Write this one down. It's a very big concept in RICO. Material fact. Has anybody heard of that before?
Yeah.
Okay, so material fact in RICO is this. If I'm a buyer, and I'll use the stigmatized property scenario as an example, okay? What is stigmatized property? Somebody's been murdered there, there's been a suicide, there's been ghosts and stuff, like they call it
there
stigmatized.
is a symmetry in and around the area.
Whatever, right? Stigmatized. Now, stigmatized means things differently to people, right? It's not all the same. But let's say that in my faith or religion or culture, knowing that somebody had committed suicide in the property would be a material fact of me not purchasing that property. So as the buyer's agent, it's my responsibility to uncover my buyer's material facts. It's actually not the listings side to disclose those facts, because there's nothing in contract or common law that talks about stigmatized properties, just at this point in time still, right? And there may never be. In some jurisdictions in the United States, there are. They have a different legal system than ours. But currently in Canada, in the Commonwealth, we don't have that. So I'm obligated to find out whether that's an important material fact to my buyer. That's on a stigmatized side. If we're talking about a leased item, right? I'm going to say, hey, Matt, would it be a problem for you if we had a property that you had to pay for the next 12 years a monthly fee of XYZ for the furnace? Oh yeah, Mike, I'd rather just own the damn thing like everybody else. Okay, great. So now my job as the buyer's realtor is to verify that from the listing side and asking those questions of Matt. Hey, Matt, is there any contracts that we should be aware of before we prepare our offer? Oh yeah, Mike, it's a furnace contract. I'll send you a copy. Matt will send me the copy. I'll review it, show the buyer, well, this is the scenario. He has to buy it out. It's not going to be our obligation. Or there's an assumability element to it, and we'll assume it if you want to. I don't want to, great. Then we don't even go forward with an offer. We go looking somewhere else. Makes sense? Material fact. On the buying side, you have a lot of responsibility to determine the material facts for your buyers, okay?
Nazima just wants to double check the clause to put in. The seller represents and warns that they are not part of any lease agreement, in brackets, hot water tank furnace,
You got it.
et cetera, that is registered to the property. That's a
Correct.
sufficient
Yep.
clause. Okay.
Yeah, when you warrant and represent something, it's basically you're signing in blood that that's the fact. So if it wasn't the case, then they've committed fraud, right? You could add an extra line or two to that, saying something like, failing which this the seller agrees to cover any and all expenses associated with that, right? So you can add that kind of line onto the back end. That's what you would call the consequence of that fraud, right? Here's another little thing too. I know I'm off topic here. I might not finish in an hour and 15, because the medicine I'm on right now is make me feel good. Where was I going with that now? I just lost it.
Your tangents.
So what was I saying?
Clause, the clause for represents and warrants.
I forgot. It went out of my brain. It was good though. It was something important. God damn it. Maybe it'll come back to me. All right. So we'll move.
Segue to later.
We'll segue into it. There was something that I was going to say. It was good. It was like it's going to be like mind blowing.
I never know where you go with
I
these
know.
things.
Okay, so we'll go next slide. How about that? One meeting versus multiple appointments. I kind of described that to you. I was a one meeting kind of guy. I want to be the first person in. This is something that you're going to have to determine what's best for you, right? What are you thinking is best for your system, right? Maybe it is you want to be the second or third gal in, and maybe you want to do 2-3 visits to the property before you get that. So in this type of market, which is what we're in now, is a seller's market, it really only typically requires one meeting to get in and get a listing. When you're in a buyer's type market, it usually takes multiple appointments, because in those, if you look at what we've just gone through, sellers have had to come to grips and terms with what the market was doing in January to March 2022, and then what happened when the market went down up until, let's say, April 2023. So in this whole time frame, there's a acknowledgement and acceptance that the seller has to go through, that they were here, the values, and now the values have come here. And so that requires more appointments for them to understand that. Now, the beauty of the market right now, we pivoted about a month and a half ago, right? We noticed it. I've been saying it to people. I think I've said it a couple of times in this class already. And it's now been, revealed by the data points that Trev has published in Korea and Korea, the pivot's going back up. And, you know, from January 1 of this year to the end of April, we've gone up 11% on average. Well, the end of May numbers will show that it's gone up even more because we're now seeing multiple offer situations with, you know, 20, 25, we had one with 37 now again. So, I mean, it's the market has pivoted. So right now, you're really going to want to be sharp on the ball and being able to get that one appointment close on the contract type of meeting with the seller, okay? Double that. All right, next one. Preparing for the listing presentation. So I showed over there the two packages. My package, and then this is the one you get from Design. You need to have something like this as a presentation piece. People still, regardless of electronic media, they like tangible things to have in their hands, right? So this one's free. I encourage you to create your own kind of listing presentation package. It does take time to do it. Once you've created it, then you McDonaldize it, like I said before, meaning you recreate it and have it on your shelf so that you are ready in case, like right now, I'm a realtor, I'm walking around and I get the call, it's it's 1:45 and Johnny referred me to Matt and I call Matt, Matt wants me to come over right now, or 2 hours. Am I ready to go in 2 hours? Well, if I have a book prepared, I get to sign to make this one, then I can go in and do the CMA over the next hour or two. So I'm prepared. But if I have to create the material, the collateral material, and do a CMA, there's no way I'm doing that, right? Now, maybe Matt's not going to call me in 2 hours. Maybe he's going to call me in tonight for 7 or 8. That's more likely. I got 6 hours. But maybe I have a doctor's appointment. I got to go pick up my kids at school. I got to, my car's in the garage right now. Life's in the way. Have the stuff ready to pull off your shelf, the easy stuff, the stuff that you can McDonaldize, and then the unique stuff, which is the data points, the CMA points on Matt's house. You can put that time and energy invested in that, right? Compare market analysis includes current active sales sold. And here's the one that everybody forgets to put in, expired listings. If I could get $1 for every listing presentation CMA I see that's missing that, I'm not saying I could retire right now, but I'd be well on my way. Expired listings are very, very important to include in your CMAs because what they are, they're failures. Somebody listed their house. Some seller went through the effort of hiring a realtor, cleaning their house up, maybe getting it staged, painting, decluttering, and also having people come through their house. So they had a genuine interest and intention of selling. Would you agree? Some people will say, well, I just wanted to see what it was worth. Well, if that's the case, they wouldn't go through all those other efforts. And if that's the case, I question why you would want to take that kind of listing. I just want to test the market kind of thing. Do you really want to invest your time, energy, and reputation by putting a sign out for 60, 90 days for somebody who just wants to test the market? No. So expired listings from bona fide listings are failures. Why do you want to show the failure listings to the seller that you're trying to get signed up? Why would you do that?
When they have a overvalue of their home.
So one of the reasons for failure could be it's overvalued. That's probably the biggest reason. You're right? So price is usually the number one. There's a question for you. What are the other two big reasons why properties do not sell? This is number one in a huge way, the biggest way. But there's two other reasons why properties listings do not sell and become expired listings.
Is it photo, like
The
photos?
condition of the property.
Condition. Condition. It's a good one. If you are reading a listing and it says it's showroom condition, 10 plus, and you walk in the front door and the first thing you want to do is walk back out the front door, that's not 10 plus, that's a condition problem, right? If there's grass looks like you're in a safari in Africa, not a good thing on your front lawn. If it's wintertime and there's snow, not a, like you want a good condition looking property. So this is where staging comes in. This is where decluttering comes in to make the condition look like one of those HGTV homes we see on TV all the time, right? So condition. What's the other one? The first two, by the way, you can change and modify, or here's a better word, you can influence these two as a realtor. The third one you cannot influence at all. What's the third reason why something wouldn't sell? Yeah, location. Wanted to share with you that everybody always uses the word location, location, location. And great, that worked about 30 years ago or 40 years ago when I first got into the business, but the reality is not that anymore. Price, condition, location. You can argue it's price, location, condition. It's interchange 2 and 3, but price is the single largest determinant now of everything. Location, probably number 2 in my books, condition number 3. But you cannot change the location. So if you're backing onto a rail line, you're backing onto a rail line. And if you like trains, great. You're going to have a front row view of trains. If you don't like trains and you need your sleep because you're on shift work and trains are coming at all times of the day, it's probably not a good location for you. If you're a senior retiring and you want to get into, say, a bungalow, and a small bungalow, and if that bungalow is beside a school with kindergarten kids up to grade 6, that may not be the right location for that person, right? So you can change the 2, can't change the 3rd.
Nozimesh has a quick question.
Sure.
What is a strategy to handle objections from sellers and buyers when they bring up House Sigma stats? I don't know what House Sigma stats are though.
So yeah, House Sigma is a brokerage, a real estate brokerage here in Ontario, and I believe they're licensed maybe in British Columbia as well now. Funny that the broker record of that company is a very close friend of mine. She's literally just stepping down from it right now, and they're actually looking for a new broker record. So House Sigma is a brokerage, and House Sigma has AI technology, so artificial intelligence technology. And you can use their AI technology to do their, I think it's called Sigonomics is the term that they put on this thing. I could be wrong, but it's basically a generic valuation of a property. The problem is it's not very accurate yet. The differential is anywhere between 5 and 7% right now. You're talking about a $2 million property, and your Sigonomics valuations are off by 5 or 7%, do that math. You're talking about $100,000+ in error, right? And so what is it? As I've said to my friend, her name's Trish Manning, you can look her up. She may be now officially stepped down, but she was their broker record for a number of years. I've said to my friend Trish so many times, it's a novelty is what they are. It's not a derogatory statement that I'm saying here, because we don't want it to be derogatory to our competition. But if you think of it, it's a toy, it's a novelty for people to go on and have fun with. Because at the end of the day, AI is not sophisticated enough to replace you. To replace you as the realtor. What does that mean? That means that you as the realtor walk into the house. Before you walked into the house, you've driven the neighborhood. Before you've driven, or after you've driven the neighborhood, you've driven the street. You've parked your car, you've taken in the actual aesthetics of the outside of the property. Does AI do that? Does AI know that the school, yes, it may know the school is ranked in the top tier, but does it really know what that looks like, what that feels like? Do they have testimonials and have they talked to the families that go there? No. So you are not being replaced by the AI novelty that House Sigma has. So it's a little bit of a toy. And by the way, Royal LePage is owned by a company called Brookfield Asset Management. I don't know if everybody knows that. Brookfield Asset Management is one of the largest companies in the in the world. It's like Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. That's how big it is. Well, Brookfield Asset Management not only owns Royal LePage, but it owns all kinds of relocation companies. It owns lawyer companies, building inspections. So they actually manage, I understand, 80 to 90% of all sales. They touch, sorry, I should mean that. They touch 80-90% of the sales across Canada. House Sigma doesn't. Just here in Ontario and British Columbia. Well, we have our own little thing. If you watched last week, Phil Soper was on, and he talked a little bit about that. I don't even know what we call ours. Why? Because the novelty, right? Go ahead, go and play on House Sigma, that's fine. But you need me. You need the foot soldier on the ground that combines and correlates all of this important information into one. Because our job has really transformed into being interpreters of information and data. That's where you're going to really get paid in the future. So if you are worried about AI replacing you, don't. Just get really good at being somebody that interprets information and data. I've had my license for 31 years. If I was asked to go and sell real estate to my mom and dad who wanted to go buy a cottage in North Bay, wouldn't know the first thing about North Bay real estate cottages. I could get data, I could look at it, and I've got 31 years of experience where I could put it on paper and analyze it, but I don't work there. I've not walked in the shoes of a realtor there. I don't have that experience, that street knowledge. So even though I have the years of experience, I don't have the actual experience I need. So what would I do? I would enlist the services of a realtor up there to help me personally to buy. Why would I go and try that myself? It's possible, but God forbid I make a mistake for my parents or for myself or for a potential client, right? So don't worry about House Sigma. It's not going anywhere. Nothing wrong with their company. They're a great company, but I would say this, I think it is called Sigonomics. It's a novelty. So hopefully I answered the question. Never be intimidated by another service provider's offerings or what they do. It's part of their marketing hooks, right? You have your own. Market your stuff. What your advantage is. Well, House Sigma versus Royal LePage Signature, there's probably dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of things that we have an advantage over House Sigma over. Emphasize those. Leverage those. That's that quote I talked about. One of my favorite quotes of all time. He who's prepared has the battle hat fought. Almost sounds like The Art of War by Sun Tzu, but it's not. Miguel de Cervantes wrote the book Don Quixote, which is, as I said, the second most highest selling book of all time. Does everybody know what the #1 book of sales of all time is? The what? Sorry?
Secrets book?
The Secret Book. No. The Bible.
I was gonna say the Bible.
The Bible is #1. Yeah, funny. Okay, next slide. Listing presentation appointment. This is nothing to write down, just kind of the semantics of how it looks. Be time and be dressed. The being on time, I can't emphasize that enough. If you're going to be late, please call your people beforehand. Listen, I'm running late. The traffic is just unbelievable. There's an accident on the QW on 407 and 410. Give them a heads up because they're waiting for you. And if you show up 5 minutes late and you haven't done that, that's strike one. It's a big strike against you. And if you haven't called them to warn them you're coming late, shame on you. If you call them to warn them you're coming late, and if the real reason is you're with another client, what do you think my advice is? Don't tell them you're with another client. Because in their mind, they're the only client that you're going to work with. So it's like, hey, Matt, I'm running about 10 minutes late. I'm with another client. I'll be there at 6:10. Sorry about that, buddy. Not the way you want to say it. Traffic. I ran out of gas. I don't want you to lie, but you can find reasons that are not, I'm with another client. That's a kiss of death in our business when you've now planted a seed in the mind of the prospect you're trying to sign under contract that there's other people you're dating. because we're supposed to be in an exclusive relationship here, Matt. Like, I'm not supposed to be playing the field with other buyers and sellers, am I? I'm supposed to be only with you. Well, you tell him you're with another client, and he's like, oh, that guy's cheating on me with another potential buyer seller. Don't do that. These are the 6 big questions as well. You can see the whys, the whats. Again, this is all about you determining what you want to add to your arsenal of questions. There's hundreds of them that you can figure out what you want to put in. I'm not telling you which ones to use. You figure out what is the best fit for you, okay? Was there a question I saw?
It was more of a comment. Nozima says she needs to get better at setting boundaries. Her clients call her as early as 7, as late as 11 p.m.
Wow. Yeah, I would be setting boundaries too, which would be my phone's on silent at 7 a.m. and my phone goes off at 10 or whatever you determine is your time frame. Again, that's the taking control. Remember the first class we had with you, the little survey we did, the 10-point survey? One of the questions was taking control. How good are you at managing and taking control and setting those boundaries? It's a science, it's an art more than a science, right? So you have to figure out the right words to set those boundaries up for yourself and your client. Next one, listing presentation appointment. Just to set the mindset, and this is what this little section is, your mindset. So maybe you have an affinity to acting. So what does the Academy Award performing role look like? If you're an athlete, what's the gold medal performance look like? If you're into politics, well, the presidential State of the Union speech is one of the most important speeches the president, or in our case, the prime minister, is going to give. How good is your presidential prime minister speech? And how good are you if you're going to be doing the halftime show at Super Bowl, which there's people, hundreds of millions of people, that all they do is tune into the halftime show. They don't watch the football game, but 300 or 400 million people from out the world turn in to watch Lady Gaga or Jennifer Lopez or whoever to do the halftime show. Lots of pressure. At that point in time, there's 1 billion people watching the halftime show. How good are you to do the halftime show? Yesterday, I was presenting in front of Mississauga City Hall, and I had been given a speech to read about a half an hour before. And I didn't realize I was being given a speech to read a half an hour before. I had thought I would just go up there and wing it, because that's what I normally do, right? Way better at doing that. But they wanted me to do a formal speech. I didn't have a chance to prepare, read the speech until a half an hour before going in front of all city council on camera, being recorded with about 150 people behind me in an audience. So I struggled through it. I did not, in my mind's eye, do any of that yesterday. To the people there watching it, they felt that they felt that I did, but I didn't, because I wasn't prepared, because I had been given something a half an hour before. I did my best. I have done lots of speaking engagements and whatnot, so I was able to maybe fool the audience into thinking this was a good Academy Award performance. But inside, I walked away from that feeling bad, because I felt like I did not deliver. And if you're going into a listing presentation and you walk away and you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach that you didn't do what you should do, analyze what it was you missed. Like where did you feel you went wrong? So now you address that problem in your presentation so that you don't do it again. Making mistakes is part of what we do. I shared with you some funny stories last week, right? I mean, hell, I have many times where I've made a fool of myself by doing stupid mistakes. I turned out okay. I'm a VP with Royal Page Signature. I'm the president of Mississauga Real Estate Board. So if I can screw up like that, so can you. Just own it and learn from it, right? But this is what you should aspire to, that type of level of performance. Next one, start building rapport immediately. We talked about that. Situational and contingent on the seller and their personality. So I studied psychology in university in my undergraduate days, and in my master's degree, I wrote my master's thesis on real estate. It was called Performance Predictors for Realtors. And the vast majority of it was a psychologically based thesis where I looked at the emotional intelligence of realtors. I looked at the procrastinating behavior of realtors. Has everybody heard the word procrastination? This is one of the biggest reasons why realtors fail. The literature is all over that. I also investigated the flip side to procrastinating behavior. Do you know what that is? What's the opposite of procrastination behavior?
Proactive.
Proactive behavior. Proactive is the opposite of procrastinating. Very few realtors are truly proactive realtors in this business. I also examined what's called the big 5 factors of personality, which is the foundational point of all personality psychology. But I want to introduce you to a simpler way to look at personality. So if you want to have a simple kind of look at what does personality look like, you can use the DISC method. That's right. So this is dominant. So if you go into a listing presentation or a buyer presentation, simple way to look at it, put people in one of these 4 categories, okay? I is influencer. This is conscientious, I think. Yes, it is. And steady. So you look at this quadrant. It's a very basic mechanism. This is it here. I'm going to actually incorporate that in my next class, just so people can see that. In the D section, here's some words just to trigger what that looks like. So one word is the dominating person, the dictator, the director. That's what a D is. A D person wants to get right down to business. They don't care about that at all. Director couldn't care less about building rapport. Show me the numbers. Or what's the Jerry Maguire movie? Show me the money. They don't care about friendship stuff. It's nothing. They want results. These people are result-oriented people, okay? Maybe you're a D, and I'm not passing any judgment on you. I know I'm not. Even though I'm a leader, I'm a broker, I'm all this kind of stuff, I am not that kind of person. Me personally, when I come into contact with these people, it's not a fun experience for me because I am this guy. I'm this guy. And I'm partly these 2 guys. Here's the other thing too. Nobody is really entirely 100% one of the 4, right? But they're going to have a dominant personality. My dominant personality is an I in this model, right? An influencer, what do they have? Well, they're outgoing. They're enthusiastic. They have new ideas, right? That's what an influencer is. A steady person here, they're patient. They're supportive. They're accepting. And a conscientious person, they like facts. They like numbers. And they're analytical. Steady is, I'll put some more here for you. So they're patient, supportive, and accepting. An influencer is enthusiastic, supportive, and outgoing. So one of the things I would suggest you do is look at yourself as a chameleon when you're going into these experiences. A lot of people used to refer to me as the chameleon realtor because I could chameleon myself into whatever those 4 quadrants were, right? So that I could mimic and mirror the person that was in front of me, right? Because even though I'm not D at all, I can become and act like a D to a D who's going to respect the D, okay? Or the I, the S, and the C. So you want to try and become a chameleon. So knowing the kind of personality traits that are assigned to the 4 quadrants, if you get 3 or 4 of them in your mind, that in the ones that I just wrote down, that when you're going in, okay, a D is a director, they just want the answers, they don't want any kind of friendship. Okay, great, let's get on to that wavelength and forget about all the superlative kind of stuff we're going through. Make sense? Any questions on that? chameleon, be a chameleon. Listing presentation script. I'm not sure what page you're on for this one.
44.
Around 30, 44?
44.
So 44, I think 45 and 46, right? Yeah. So those are just some dialogues, listing presentation scripts. We're not going to go through them individually, but there's some more language that you can start practicing and incorporating into your business, into your conversations, okay? The next one. So when you're doing your listing presentation, you've got your little booklet, your binder, you've gone through the CMA, you've gone through expired listings, the ones that have recently sold and the currently active. You've done all the kind of material facts of your presentation. And now it's getting down to the nitty gritty about, making a decision. Here's another thing you can incorporate with your presentation that I have seen in very, very few businesses, real estate businesses out there. And it's called a scheduled timeline. Now this one's only got 7 days. This is going to be like out to 60, 90, 120 days. This is just basic stuff, by the way. Okay, very basic. What I'm looking for everybody to do, which is what I did when I sold, is you're adding in all kinds of layers of things that you do, right? So say maybe you're going to go day 8 to 15. Here's the 10 things you're going to do in day 8 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 30, whatever you want to set it up as. And why is it important that we do something like that? It's important because the person that we're listing the house for, or the person that we're representing as a buyer, they go to a traditional job. Like I have a traditional job now. So does Matt. So if Matt showed up here for work every day and Matt didn't know what his day looked like, what would you do, Matt? Watch Star Wars? Star Trek?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Matt might go like, well, my day looks like, instead of, well, say a few things that you do every day that you know when you walk in here, you're doing. What's legit stuff?
Here?
Yeah.
Here. Transfer people to the brokerage, transferring.
Transfer.
Orientations,
Who's been transferred to the brokerage by Matt? Everybody.
everyone.
What if Matt just forgot about that's part of his job? He would never transfer here, right? So transfer, what else?
Orientations.
Orientation. Who's got an orientation for Matt?
Hopefully I haven't missed anyone.
There you go. What else, Matt?
Geez.
That's all you do.
Fixing.
We got to sit down and figure out.
Support.
Tech support.
Tech support.
Oh, he's my guy for tech support. How many times do I call you into my office? Almost daily. Like, Matt, my Zoom's not working. Matt, my email's done. Hey, Matt, I clicked this link. Is that like a phishing virus thing? Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so I shouldn't click those ones, right, Matt? No. So Matt knows his defined job that he comes to every day. When you're thinking about what your defined job is as the realtor, when you list a house, are you putting down those defined activities that you're doing? No, you're not. You should. Why? Because Matt, who goes to work every day, and I, who go to work every day, I have, and so does Matt, defined activities that my employer expects of me. And if I don't perform those jobs, those expectations, I probably, and Matt probably wouldn't have a career anymore. Would you agree with that? So what you're helping to put in the mind's eye of your seller in this case is this is what I'm doing for you, Matt. Because here's sadly the reality. A lot of people think all we do as realtors is we go and get a sign and pop it in the lawn for sale, Mike Henley, and we broker load it up into MLS. And then we wait for a couple of days, a week or two, and somebody brings an offer, we sell it. Would you agree that that's the mindset of the vast majority of people out there that are selling homes? That's all you do. Well, I know everyone in this room and at home would beg to differ and disagree vehemently, right? Like, no. So why are you not pushing back on something like that? Or why are you actually not even letting that seed grow to something in the mind's eye of your seller? Create your own scheduled timeline of activities you're doing for your seller. This thing here should have 100, 200 things that you're doing on an ongoing basis The moment that we engage a signed listing and get it onto the market. Who would disagree with that? Let me put a question like this then out there. Who's doing something like that right now? Is anybody doing that? And if you are, you get the gold star. Because I know very few realtors, even to this day, that do that. All of our top people do in the brokerage, by the way. Because they understand that the person they're dealing with, they operate in this environment at their career and their job, okay? If you don't have one, time to start creating one, okay? Oh, Matt sent as well the first week. You sent the critical role of the realtor form, okay? There was how many, 189 things there?
285.
285, okay.
More than 250.
There was more than 250 in there?
No.
Well, I thought it was 189, okay. So we're saying there's 250 things that are in the critical role of a realtor. Now, I'm not saying every one of the 250 you can throw in here, but I bet you could put in 150 of them, 180 of them. So most of the job's done for you already. Spend an hour or two creating that. It's amazing what the results will look like for you. Next one. Determine their goals. What are their goals? So for instance, net dollars and time. Create what's called the net sheet. Has anybody ever done a net sheet for a seller? No. What does net mean, first of all?
After.
No. Total is gross.
After everything's completed.
You got it. That's the after. After all home expenses, okay? After all expenses have been deducted. That's the net. So if we're talking about a selling situation for a listing, let's just use a generic number. We'll go easy number, $1 million is the sale price. Call it SP, stands for sales price, okay? What expenses are going to come out of that sales price? What possible ones could come out of that?
The rental stuff,
The rental?
the rental of the furnace, if
Oh, if there's any rental, like buyouts, right?
not buyouts.
First is mortgage payment.
Could be mortgage. Oh, Nasheed got the one that I was waiting for you to say.
Commission.
Your fees. Fees, lawyer, exactly. What else do we have? I saw a couple of things come up there.
Staging.
Staging, could be. Staging. So you're going through an exercise here now, and your mind's, percolating. Oh, these are all these things. Don't you think the seller should be aware of those things? Isn't it better that you, being proactive that you are, that you're bringing this up before they're actually paying those bills? Right? So it's a great thing. So you create what's called a net dollar or net sheet for the seller right there in that. And this is not to be, held in a law case that this is the exact number you're going to net down to, but we're taking $1 million and maybe we're now at 920. Thereabouts, let's just say, right? For argument's sake, we might be down to $920,000. It's a ballpark for them. And then they can get really detailed with maybe their accountant or their lender, because with the mortgage, who said mortgage? Yeah, okay. So for mortgage, we could still have an existing mortgage. And there could be the face value of the mortgage. Maybe we have 150,000 left. But then we have a buyout fee. So we have this penalty, a buyout penalty to clear the mortgage. Just started it, right? So these are all these types of things you can have this conversation with. All we're doing here, if you've picked up on it, I'm sure, is we're just being professional. We're doing stuff that nobody else is doing out in the field. The vast majority are not doing any of this work. You may think they are, but they're not. And what you're doing is differentiating yourself as a professional amongst 60 other thousand realtors, because there's maybe 10,000 realtors doing it this way. Maybe only 8. Right? Remember I went through the exercise of who you're really competing with? Most of them are not doing any of this stuff here whatsoever. It takes commitment, it takes time to put the McDonald's system into your business. McDonald's was not built overnight. Your business will not be built overnight by creating these types of systems. But once they are, man, it's like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The same thing over and over. Then you add a new idea. Somebody said something cool on Signature Live. Bang, I'll add that into my business. You go to a seminar. Oh, I like that. Add it into your business. That's how I build my stuff. As much as I think I'm a fairly intelligent guy, I learned from a lot of better people that have gone through a lot of things before me, right? I followed in their footsteps. Motivations for selling. These are the big ones here: job loss, divorce, growing family, health issues, age related. What's the reason for selling? Some of them are not fun, right? I mean, an illness, job loss, those are tough conversations. You almost have to be a therapist, a psychologist at times. Again, who said about the boundaries? Boundaries about stuff like that's very important. Like if somebody is in a bad way, do you want to become part of the bad way, or do you want to be helpful, right? There's nothing wrong with being helpful, doing what you can, but if you become more involved in that, and that may be your personality style, and that's fine. You pick and choose what you want to do, but you're going to become committed to somebody else's issues, not your own, right? So it's very, very difficult to manage that. Because, well, job loss, somebody loses their job or divorce, financially, they're probably not in the right spot, right? So they're going to be wanting possibly a reduced fee from you, things like that, right? Now, if it's me, I make a judgment call on those types of things on an individual case by case basis. Because if they have economic problems, a job loss most likely is not their fault, unless they show up to work every day drunk, or they show up every day late and they leave early. They're going to lose a job. It's not my responsibility that they acted like idiots, right? Or if they have, let's say they have a gambling addiction and they've gone and refinanced their house to go and gamble. Well, it's not my problem. Why should I give away my fee for somebody else's problem? I'm enabling their bad behavior. Don't do that. What's their readiness to list? Would they list right now, right? That's where the bona fide listing is. Everybody in the room going to be able, the decision makers, to be able to help you to get that readiness to list. Property inspection, walk around in a guided tour. So one of the first things I ever learned from a realtor back in 1992 was when you do a listing presentation, one of the first things you want to ask when you get in, you pay a compliment and do all these kind of things, but you ask the seller right in the doorway, in the front entranceway, hey, listen, Matt, great to see you. Oh, man, I love driving up the outside aesthetics of your house. The curb appeal was exceptional. I've never seen a nicer house, right? Make sure it's a legit one. Don't, if it's got the overgrown, grass and weeds, don't go and say something like that, right? But maybe they have a nice car in the driveway. Make a compliment about their car. Or maybe they have a dog or whatever. You pay some nice compliment. So Matt, here's what I was thinking. If you could give me a tour, a guided tour of your house, like I'm a cash buyer. I know I've just walked into the house and stuff, and, but we've talked on the phone a couple of times, and this is going to be a situation where I've already got rapport with him. Matt, take me around like I'm a cash buyer. I've actually got cash in my pocket right now to buy your house. And how I'd like you to show me your house. And I brought my little book with me, and I'm going to take notes if that's okay, because I don't want to forget anything that you say. I want to be able to do that because you know your house better than anybody. You know better than I. I'm only going to be here for a few hours, 5-10 hours, and the whole aggregate of time to sell your house. You've lived here. You're going to point out things that you love and enjoy about your house. Does that make sense? Well, I'm going to use those types of things to build up the marketing strategy and marketing plan to get your house sold for the highest possible price in the least amount of time. So just remember, I'm a cash buyer. I'm not Mike Cowan, the realtor. Give me the guided tour. And you go on a guided tour. And they start pointing out it happens every time. They point out all the good features, and they point out the bad ones too. Genuine people go, oh, by the way, Mike, the the grout here in the bathtub, I'm gonna fix it, like it's coming through. Don't worry, there's no problem here, but I'm gonna make sure that I take care of that. Oh, okay, great. Make a note, there's a grout problem. They will do that by and large. When you're finished the guided tour and you're now maybe on the main floor, because you've gone upstairs and you've gone downstairs and you come back up to the main floor, you know, you're now maybe entering to the kitchen. That's the last place you're going to. I was taught this by my first week, second week of real estate by a guy that's been in business for 40 years at that point. He is deceased. He's no longer with us. He said, Mike, do this when you're doing the guided tour stuff. You start walking, you have your pad with you, you stop and you put your finger here on your hat, your finger or lip. You look up and you go, you know what, Matt, I'm going to sell your house. Direct, confident. And Matt feels like, holy cow, this guy is going to sell my house. He just gave me a validation. He just made me a commitment. Now, it sounds corny. It sounds ridiculous, right? Do it. It works all the time. Practice it. Don't go and try it the first time when you're going to do a listing presentation, because then you'll do what I did. When I did all that, I did practice. I'm like, you know what, Matt, I'm not going to sell your house. I actually said that. They laughed. I'm like, I'm joking. But in my mind, I'm like, holy cow, I blew a simple dialogue. So I didn't practice it. I thought I could do it. Wing it. I'm winging it. Matt, you know what? And you're looking up. And why are you looking up? You're looking up to the heavens. There's going to be a God or a higher power, authority that's going to get your house sold. That's what he's seeing at a subconscious level. This guy's got confidence, and if he doesn't have the confidence, upstairs has got the confidence is going to make that happen. Now, if he's an atheist, yeah, you know, maybe that's not going to work. Okay, makes sense. Give it a try. Have fun with this stuff. Your fee. So I'm going to teach you a course. I think it's next week, my fee course, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of dialogues on fees because I know everybody, you know, thinks that it's different now. It's not like when I sold and it's harder. It was easy. Listen, nothing further from the truth. It's just as hard today as it was back then. Maybe even harder back then than it is today. It's all about practicing the skills, the dialogues, the conversations. As I said in the first class, knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, right? Remember we changed some words in your vocabulary? Changing those words, having those conversations, you'll get your fee that you want. Now, I'm going to share with you, I think my next slide is my last slide, Matt.
You've got 3.
Oh, there's some errors in the workbook, okay. Ask somebody to take measurements, yeah. For me, if there was kids for measurements, and I never used the laser pointer machines that they have. They had them back in my day too, right? Like you had the thing that would go in here and it would do the measurement. Too easy. I would take a tape measure and I would engage the client. And if they had kids, the kids were working with me. Remember I told you kids are one of the biggest reasons why people buy and sell? Well, Johnny would take a tape measure and we measured the house up. And oh, I got a great story for you, just popped in my head. One of my first sales was to in '92 to Doug and Janet Penfold. They'd walked through an open house. Remember I told you that most of my business came from running open houses because I was an open house fanatic. They were working with another realtor, not under contract, but they were working with another realtor. They liked me at the open house. I was prepared. I had information, and they had a house to sell and they wanted to buy a house. And they had a little boy. John Penfold was the name. So Doug and Janet and Johnny. And so John was maybe 3.5, 4 years old. And so I made all fuss over John, went over to their house, listed their house, eventually sold them the house. But when I went to list the house, I had little John measure the house with me with this tape measure. And he felt like he was just on cloud 9. And the parents were ecstatic, like their little kids having a great time. With little John, I had my broker, I made a certificate. And he was my honorary personal assistant, John Penfold. And I had like a little star sticker. And I went to my broker, and my broker signed as the broker. And I gave it to him in an actual frame, like that he kept. Doug and Janet, I bought and sold 6 times with them over their career. The last one was one of my last sales before I left the business, which is in fall of 2006. And so John was now in university. And John came back, the kid, to see me one last time. And went and the mom and dad still kept a bedroom for him, even though he was off to university. And what does he bring down all those years later? 1992 to 2006, a framed certificate that he hung on his wall, even as a kid that went off to university. You don't know the little things you do and the impacts they make. I did not expect that whatsoever. Did I have a tear or two in my eyes to see that? Abso-freaking-lutely. I don't know why I'm telling you that story. I think it's the company. Engage the kids. I made that kid's day in 1992. To me, it was a nice thing to do. I forgot about it a week later, 2 weeks later. The kid remembered it for the rest of his life. And guess who else remembered it for the rest of their life? Mom and dad. Mom and dad would never call another realtor to come in to list their home because John was Mike Hanley's honorary assistant. Small things like that. Like, I'm not telling you to go and do stuff like that, but my goodness, like I'd never connected it till the last time I ever did a transaction for that family. That part of the reason they kept on coming back, all the, me staying in touch and following up and, reaching out, popping by, those were all the good things. That little thing, that was like the exclamation point. That was de facto nobody else. They could do it for free for them and they still wouldn't use that person. They were coming back to me, right? What's the next slide here? You need to first agree upon a listing price. So one of the things about a bona fide listing, if the house is worth $1 million in a traditional market and the seller is insisting that they want $1,200,000, not a bona fide listing. You are not a magician. You do not have your own show down in Vegas alongside David Copperfield, where you can pull a rabbit out of the hat and make a $1 million house turn into a $1.2 million house. So you have to also agree on the list price before you actually even start negotiating the fee part. So you get that out of the way. So Matt, if we could agree upon the list price, would you list your property with me? Yes, sure. So you've gone through all the details, your CMA, we come out with $1 million. And so long as Matt's on the same page, now we have different marketing strategies too, right? The $1 million, we're probably listing at 900, right? To generate multiple offers, right? So I'm not going to go into the specific strategies that we have and deploy right now, but in a generic sense, we need to agree upon the list price. Because if we don't have the expectation set with the seller. Because if the expectation of the seller is 1.2 and we're listing at 9 and we're generating sales offers at 1 or 1,010,000, then Matt's completely off the rails with me. We're not on the same page. Risk to overpricing. New listings, you've seen some of the graphs that we do. When new listings come up, if you do the graph, time and price, you've probably seen some of these things, right? So the time on the market, entry level time and price is way up here. And then that slowly dwindles down. This here is the first 3 weeks, generally speaking, is the most active time for price, return on price in a listing. And it makes common sense. If you're a buyer driving around and your realtor provides you with a copy of the 3 listings you're seeing tonight, and one of the listings says 2 days on market, one says 5 days on market, and the other says 27 days on market. What's the comment you're making as a buyer to your realtor that's driving you around about the one that's 27 days? What's wrong with the property? Right? I told you what the 3 reasons why properties sell. Remember? Price, condition, location. So what would your answer be back to your buyer? You haven't seen the property yet. I don't know what's truly wrong yet. My guess, it's the price. That's most likely the reason. But until we get there, we're not going to know, because the other reason could be the location or it could be the condition of the house. But my guess, it's the price is what's wrong with the property. And the seller may not have in their mind's eye an understanding of what the price really truly is, right? But you're always going to have that buyer make that comment when the property's been on the market for more than 15 days, more than 20 days. What's wrong with the house? There might not be anything wrong with condition, location. It could be perfect. Checkbox, checkbox. Could be the price. Most likely is. Yeah, I think that we're good. And then what do we do? Custom design. I talked about that for your custom design marketing plan. It takes time to McDonaldize your own business. Proactive strategies, open houses. I was, like I said before, a fanatic to doing open houses. I highly, highly recommend you guys get out there and do it. The weather is now on your side. Your timelines and benchmarks that you're going to accomplish things. Again, that's going to take you some time. Use the critical role of realtor stuff to build that out for yourself, but get that ready to go. I'll give you a second to add these in, and I got one more slide, right? Yep.
It's your different plans.
Right.
slide.
Okay, so I say the best for last. Okay. Best for last, and my medication's wearing out right now because my back is really sore. So this is a dumbed down version of what I really had. A basic version, but it's my fee for service plan. That's what I actually called it in my presentation, my fee for services. This is an actual section here that's legit. This is what I called it back in the day. Deluxe plan, premium, and economy. Some people will go gold, silver, bronze. That's kind of the equivalent of your gas. When you go get your gas, you got gold gas, you got silver, you got bronze. So I made a different terminology. You create whatever you like. And these were the actual numbers back in the day that we would get for our fees, right? So a full fee would be on a deluxe plan, 6%. I'm not standing here, what are we, May 2023, saying that you're going to get 6%. So you change those around to whatever your business model fee for service plan is going to look like. I'm not telling you what to do. You figure out what you want to do. And once you come into terms, let's say in this model here, this becomes 5%, okay? Then premium is 4.5, and then economy is 4. Let's just, for argument's sake, that's what you're going to set as your 3, fee service model plans. The key then is to build out value for your fee. So if somebody wants to pay 5% to you, they got to understand what's the value in it for them. What's in it for them with them, right? What's in it for them? Well, if you don't build out what you're going to do for them, then they don't know what's in it for them. It's called with them, right? With them. Well, stands for what's in it for me, with them. I don't know if everybody's ever heard that term. If you don't show them what you're going to do, if you don't provide the value, if you don't provide the services, then it's going to be impossible for you to negotiate a fee that is going to justify your time, energy, and the money that you're personally going to invest. Because maybe you're going to cover staging, maybe you're going to cover the decluttering, maybe you're going to do whatever you're going to do. Your time's worth money, right? Let's put that out there. Your gas that you're driving here and there is money. The time you're dedicating to Matt and not to John is money. I'm making a choice here to get paid here and not there, right? So it's a firm choice in your business model. What I would suggest you do is sit down, play with this kind of idea. If it's something that is interesting to you, give it a shot. And now I'll tell you why I went to this model, because I didn't start my career with this model. I got stuff. My back's killing me. I went into this model about my 5th year. So that was around 96, 97. And I was heavily involved in the minor sport community in Brampton. I was doing hockey, baseball, and inline hockey. And so everybody that I dealt with primarily was in those worlds. And so if I had sold Matt's house tonight, and I sold Mary's house 3 months ago, and Johnny's house a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe they're talking at the arena about how great I was as their realtor. And Matt pipes up and Matt goes, yeah, Mike was amazing last night. Boy, I really liked his, what he charged. He's gonna say commission, he's not gonna say fee, right? Because they think of it as commission. Well, Mike only charged me 5%. That was amazing. But Mary didn't choose the economy, right? Mary chose the deluxe plan. And so in the deluxe plan, I charged Mary 6%. What's Mary thinking right now that Matt just told Mary that I did 5% and I charged Mary 6%? Oh, yeah. I don't feel special anymore as Mary, right? Like I'm actually thinking Mike's a, well, I was going to say a bad word. Mike's not a nice guy. Mike gave Matt, Mike doesn't like me as much as he likes Matt. But then what was the other name we used? Was it John? But John goes, well, it's not as bad as you, Mary, but that jerk, he charged me 5.5%. Would you believe that scenario actually happened to me? Because they forgot that they chose a fee plan. And when I got a call, it was from the middle guy actually that called to tell me about that. He was angry. And I was like, John, I understand where you're coming from. You're angry. It's funny that you brought this up, and my plans for my fees, the model that I chose is just for these situations, right? Because it was uncontrollable. I wasn't there to have a conversation and interject. But if you recall back when we listed the property, I had 3 models of fees, right? 3 fee model plans. You selected the middle model. And so in that middle model, it built out all these types of level services to get your home sold. Matt chose the economy plan, not the premium plan that you chose. And in your plan, we were able to sell your house, remember, in 2 weeks. Just so you know, it took us 4 weeks to sell Matt's because he only chose the economy. And remember what I told you, I don't know exactly what in these models, the plans, I don't know if it's going to be, let's say, extensive internet exposure. I don't know if it's going to be the virtual tour that's going to sell your house. I have no idea. But in this plan here, I know that if I do all of these things, plus the 50 other things that I've got on that plan, that I have the highest likelihood of success for the sale of your house. By going down, we're taking out some of these because we're reducing the fee, reducing my ability to spend in marketing dollars for you. I just don't know, was this the thing that was the determining factor in selling this in 1 day versus your 5 days and his 21 days? I don't know that. And when we sat and determined your situation, you figured, let's play the middle. And we did. Matt chose to take the long road. Mary chose to take the quick road. We all got to the same destination with a successful sale. I believe that you did in your sale probably better than what Matt would have done if Matt had chosen, not chosen what he did, which was the end result. So does that make sense? All of a sudden, the anger dissipates because they are reminded of the actual scenario that happened. So for me, I created a plan like this for self-preservation because I knew the conversations were going to occur when I wasn't there to manage them or triage them at all. They were just going to happen naturally. And like I said, it happened for real. You can choose a model like that, or you can do what you're doing now. I'm not here to point fingers or tell you what to do, but maybe this is a blind spot, something you can use to better your business. Is that my last slide? Yeah.
Well, your last slide, but a question for Nozima.
Yeah.
How do you handle a situation when a seller wants to check your strategy with another agent to see if they would agree with pricing and your selling strategy? How would you handle that question?
I guess I want more clarity on what they're looking to specifically check. So what part of my presentation and my strategy is something you're unclear about? And maybe we could uncover what that looks like for you, right? I'm not here to force people to do what I say or what I want them to do, but I want to get to the thing behind the thing. Okay, this is a very important concept, and psychologists talk about this all the time in therapy. Write this down. Thing behind the thing. So the question we've just had, to me, the thing behind the thing, my experience would say there's maybe a lack of confidence in my delivery that day. That's the thing behind the thing. There could be other reasons. There could be, they actually have a relative or a friend in the business, and this is their way of, sidestepping me. They got all of my information, all of my strategies, and now they're going to give it to their cousin who does one deal a year. Okay. What's the thing behind the thing? Let's just go that it is doubt in me. So I wasn't able to perform and deliver a presentation that Matt, who asked the question about it?
Nozima.
Nozima. I did not convince Nozima that I'm the guy that she should okay the paperwork with right now. So I want to find out, is it because of that? Did I screw up? And if I did, if I can uncover that conversation with those questions, how could I and address that without having another realtor review my work? How could I, what would be one way I could diffuse that situation? Is there, let me ask it a different way. Do you think that there's any other sources that, is it Nazim?
Nozima, yeah.
That Nazim could check my work with? Is there any other sources, referrals? I could refer, so I'll say it this way. I could refer her to people that I've already been successful with, right? We call them testimonials. So the dialogue could be like this. Well, listen, I understand where you're coming from, and there must have been something that I was unclear about. Could you maybe shed some light on what that looks like? I'd like to find out what the thing behind the thing is. You can even say the words, right? So, because it's helping me get better. Oh, it's this part. You know what? Rather than calling another realtor to check my work, I would think that the people you'd want to call are people that actually used my services, because they're actually the ones that bought into my plan and my structure and my service model. Here's 10 people. Here's 30 people that I've had sold and represented as buyers. You pick whoever you want. Call all 30 of them. Because to me, that's the better source of confirming your decision rather than another realtor. How does that other realtor know exactly what I've done through the whole process? Don't you want to hear from somebody that's actually done the service model that I'm presenting to you today, rather than another realtor? Just that's a strategy to use, right? Hopefully I gave a solution to that. It's kind of like, so right now, my wife, I get home last night. I get home and my wife had a contractor over because we're doing landscaping in the back. And I wasn't expecting when I got home to be pulling in and there was a landscaper giving a estimate of what work we want to do. All right, so I spent an hour now outside in my suit, looking at all the work that we're looking to have done. And I don't know this guy from Adam at all. My wife had seen his sign in the neighborhood. And so, I'm a sales guy at heart and I'm listening to his, and he's saying the right things. He's doing all the good things. But in the back of my mind, I'm not making a decision right now because one, I just walked into the situation, and two, I don't know who the testimonials are. Like, yeah, we got neighbors that have used the guy. I'm going to start calling. So when the guy left, we picked up the phone and called the neighbors that this guy's done landscaping work for. I didn't call another landscaping company. We've already done that. That's the quoting system, right? But I wanted to find out from neighbors that we trust and know and like, what was the experience like? And they were all positive. So my feeling that I had about the guy being good was right, because it was confirmed by all these third-party neighbors, right? Now, we're not picking him today. He wanted us to sign today, but we're not ready today. But he'll be doing our landscaping in July. Not a bad deal, right? But I validated him by going to somebody that experienced the actual service that he's delivering for me. So in that situation, I think you're best off redirecting that person to talk to people that have worked with you. Because that's going to be the true testament. You're going to get the proper feedback. You're not going to get feedback from a realtor. What's the other realtor's motivation? Get your listing. What was my client's testimonial motivation? They're not getting anything from me, right? But they probably walked in the same shoes as that person. There's doubt, concern, because I've heard there's some bad realtors out there. I've heard there's some bad contractors out there. I've heard there's some bad mortgage people out there. There's bad building inspectors out there. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. How do you know how good that person is unless you check under the hood? Check under the hood with people that they've worked with, right? And Google reviews and all that kind of nonsense is usually not a good place to go. Because some people are jealous of the performance and they make fake reviews. Go to people that actually bought and sold with them and give a big list. Now, you may not have a big list to start off with. I get that. But my list, 30, 40 people. Here you go. And it was printed in my books. Here you go. Buyers, here's the sellers. There's their phone numbers. There's their email address. You call them whenever you want. It's unscripted. I'm not calling 30 people to go, oh, you might get a call. I want it to be natural. And if they have something negative to say, I want them to say it because I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get better. I'm not going to feel, angry about, oh, they said I wasn't this. Okay, if they said I wasn't this, then my hospitality and my system, somewhere I had a break in that experience. Help me fix it. Right?
Nozima says that in that exact situation, she was that the strategy was to underlist to increase traffic, and that was their objection. They wanted like another opinion, and it ended up selling 50,000 over target price.
Yeah.
So,
and that's understandable, right? Because there's in the mind's eye of the seller, like that person must be nuts. It's worth $1 million. They want to list it at 900,000. Like, what kind of goof is this that's coming to the table? And so pushing them out to people that you've done that strategy with, where there's been a positive outcome, that's the best way to get that. Because not every realtor understands the mentality behind that kind of listing strategy. They're not aware of it. They're not full-time, maybe. They're not in the trenches. So get them talking to your past experiences, past clients. I think that was it, right?
Yep,
That's it. Last slide, yeah. So we have two more classes. Next week, we're doing commission objections, right? And negotiations.
Objections, handling your fee.
Awesome. So we'll see you next week. I think you're not with us next week, right?
Correct. Ajay is going to be taking over.
So Matt is away next week, and we're going to have Najee, and a lot of you probably know who Najee is as well. He's one of our rock stars here too at the West. So he'll help with the technology so that I don't screw it up. We'll see you guys. Have a happy long weekend. I think it's Victoria Day long weekend. So everybody have a great long weekend. We'll see you next week.